Okay, here we go. It's the Travis Neville Podcast. It's Monday morning. Hope you had a great weekend. I hope you're not still hungover. I got some good news going on. I coach football, and the basketball team at the high school where I work, they won the state championship. And we're in Division I, so we're among the largest high schools in Michigan. And we won the ship, won the boat. Pretty excited. Congratulations to the boys and the coaches and everybody involved. And, a couple of those kids played football for me in the fall, so it's exciting. I was texting with one of them, hey, man, real proud of you. And a state championship, that's amazing. That's a thing I certainly never sniffed as an athlete, and I haven't even been close we're getting there with football, but it's an amazing accomplishment. So congratulations to those kids. This is the Freedom Podcast. Yeah, we're going to talk about freedom. People tell me all the time, because of my lifestyle and what I do, that, oh man, dude, you got ultimate freedom. Because I don't have a job that I have to be at. I don't have a, wife tell me what to do or whatever. I mean, people tell me all kinds of things. I think it's just a situation where the grass is always greener. People think, well, shit, man, well, I wouldn't have to do this. I wouldn't have to do that. I always turn it back on those guys and go, everything in your life, and I say this all the time, you fucking put it there, dude. You chose to get married. You chose to have a job instead of working for yourself. These are all decisions that you made for better or for worse. And, I talk about the backpack a lot. Your backpack, those are the things that you choose to carry around with you, that you choose to, maybe they'll fuck with you, maybe they won't. Generally, that concept, though, is, you got this heavy weight on your back. And the more shit you put in there, the harder your life's going to be. I'm just in a spot where I don't have much in my backpack right now. I'm choosing to do some different things. But anyway, I started thinking about this concept of freedom, and I broke it down in some categories, areas that you can be, where you can be free. So what does it really mean, when people look at my life and say, oh, Travis, you're so free. You can do whatever you want. Well, let's really dig into that. Am I or aren't I? Let's just back up. Fucking, yeah, we live in the United States of America, okay? Which everybody talks about. Freedom. Oh, we got freedom. We're the only country. No, we're not. There are actually very few countries who don't have the political situation that we call freedom. There are very few. Like your North Koreas and I think Argentina, socialist, something like that. But man, it's just a different set of shackles, Yeah, sure, you can walk outside your house and, you have the freedom to, at least on paper, talk shit about the government. We in the United States have the legal right to own firearms. You can't do that in England, for example. Handguns are illegal in England. But hey, there are places in the U.S. Shit, if you live in Illinois, Chicago has the highest murder rate in the country, and you cannot have a CPL there, and it's almost impossible to get a handgun, let alone carry it. So I don't know. You got to define the freedom. Well, let's just look at my physical freedom, right, or yours. Am I in jail or prison? Nope. That's where they're going to severely limit your freedom if you're in jail, if you're incarcerated for something. It's almost like a forced slavery at that point. Now, you probably, like I said, kind of earned it. You did something, got convicted of whatever. I don't know how that went down, but we have this agreement in our country. Here are the rules and laws. If you don't abide by them, we will take away your freedom. And I like that concept. I do. I think that there needs to be a sharp stick. There needs to be a thing to make people not want to get in trouble. I think there are some crimes out there that you can make so much money that there is no amount of governmental repercussions that will dissuade you from doing what you're doing. Selling drugs or whatever it is, where you're making a shit ton of money. You're willing to take the risk at that point. But, so yeah, I'm not in jail, I'm not in prison, I'm not in North Korea. Here we are in the U.S., and we are quote-unquote free. But let's really dig into that. Let's look into this last year, 2020, with the bullshit COVID lockdowns. So we as a country, as a populace, we're pretty much okay with our government telling us you have a curfew. You can't. There were some cities that didn't let people on the streets after 9 or 10 or something. Like, you couldn't be outside your house. There are still, here in Michigan, you can't be at a bar or a restaurant past 11 p.m. And granted, it used to be 2 a.m. I mean, that's kind of was the standard. I guess there was a vote on the books about a year ago to get that pushed to 4 a.m. Man, that might not be good for me. To be able to stay out till fucking 4 a.m. My God. When I was in college, I could have done it, but maybe not now. So there's some freedom being taken away from you. Here's probably the most egregious restriction of freedom done by the government. They told us, I work in the construction industry, and they told us that we couldn't work. There was, here in Michigan, any kind of construction was illegal for a certain amount of time. There was like a month or 6 weeks or something where you couldn't even run a lawn crew, which explained to me how riding around on a lawnmower outside, you're going to catch some fucking disease. I guarantee you it's not a grass-borne illness. You know what I mean? What in the fuck is that all about? So that got restricted. Guys couldn't do remodeling. So my client base was severely, fettered by that for a certain amount of time. And again, what makes me, and I mentioned this in previous podcasts, how our whole society didn't go, what the fuck are you doing to our government? How that didn't happen is beyond me. And actually, it isn't beyond me. I know exactly why it is. It made us afraid. And that is the best way to control people. As soon as you make them afraid, they'll do whatever you want them to do. I mean, this tale is old as time. Look at any quote-unquote bad government from the last 100 years or 1,000 years. When you want your people, when you want to control them, you make them afraid. It's just a way to control population. I would submit this, that I think that's the beginning of organized religion. Oh, God will strike you down. Or, hey, that mountain exploding, that's God punishing you for sinning. You're making people afraid. You're controlling them. Anytime you have that, it's not good. That's a thing you need to pay attention to. If you see fear-mongering, it's always for the wrong reasons. Fear doesn't help you. And we've talked about that. You got to beat fear. So are you really free here living in the United States right now? I don't know, man. You're more free than you were when you lived at your parents' house. I mean, they had a curfew on you all the time. They controlled whether or not you drove anywhere, whether or not you had anything to eat, whether or not there was heat in the house. I mean, yeah, you gave up a lot of, control to your parents, and then you got off on your own. You thought, this is so great, and well, then you might tend to shackle yourself down in other ways, and we'll talk about that in a minute here. But are we free or aren't we? I mean, for most of your definitions politically right now, yeah, we're free. Shit, you can get in your car and go down and put gas in your tank. You have free access to intoxicating liquors anywhere you want to go. I mean, this is one of the only times in human history where that's been for real. Shit, in the 20s, during Prohibition, you couldn't even drink. I mean, not that that's the be-all, end-all of determining whether or not you're free, but it's certainly a measure, right? Libertarians, again, I told you I'm looking into this just because it's interesting to me. They've got these concepts about how much a government should really be involved in your life. And it's the answer from the libertarian perspective, it's not much. They don't want you, you should be a barely recognizable, the government should be way off in the distance, sort of. They've got this concept, super interesting to me, that you should own your body. Okay? And you're like, well, I own my body. I didn't sell it to anyone, No, they mean this, the government makes all kinds of rules telling you what you can and can't do with your body. There are drugs that are out there that are illegal. The government's going to tell you, nope, you cannot put that in your body. even though putting in your body really doesn't affect anyone else. It's just you. There are states and factions, and I don't know how this is set up, but the abortion thing, it certainly has been illegal in the past for a woman to get an abortion. That's not owning your body. That's the government saying that you can't do that with your body. Your body essentially belongs to us. We're going to make rules about it. I mean, on the face of it, it makes sense. It makes sense from the libertarian perspective. You should own your own body. You guys are walking around thinking you do, and legally in a lot of ways you don't. There's a lot of shit you're not allowed to drink alcohol till you're 21. You can't have any tobacco till you're 18. That is the government telling you what's good for you. I mean, I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm not. But it is essentially the government telling you, we know better than you do. So that's right. So politically, are we free? Yeah, for the most part, man. You can vote for any party you want to. You can talk shit about the government and they won't come down on you. It's illegal for them to do so anyway. But I would tell you that if you have certain political beliefs, you are going to have pretty much the entire population coming down on you, not the government. But and I guess that's just part of the way the world changes. And you know, we live in a country where majority rules. And I think it was Ben Franklin who said that the majority rules thing is just a way for 51% of the population to take advantage of 49% of the population, which I thought was pretty interesting. Yeah, that's Ben Franklin. Let's see here. Let's see. So we got that. That was political freedom. We're not in jail. That's a good thing. Next piece. And we already talked about that. Lockdowns, curfews, blah, 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 blah. So let's talk about financial freedom. Can you, what does that really mean? What is it? What's financial freedom? Well, I would say that it means that you're in a position where you've got, more income than you need. I suppose that would be a type of financial freedom. Here's how I try to do it. Because like the way I make money, I try not to get into debt. Like I own money on my house, or I owe money on my house. I've got a mortgage. Pretty much everybody's got that. And then I just bought a car, so I've got a payment on that too. Pretty simple stuff though. Other than that, that's the only place I owe money. And in both cases, the assets are worth more than the loan. So I have equity in both. So worst case, I sold them both, I'd actually come out ahead. So I suppose that's still somewhat free. If you are in a position where the bills that you have every month, they are pretty close to what you make, you are certainly not. You don't have financial freedom. It really is just debt versus income. Are you able to stay out of debt? That's huge. Do you make enough money to cover your shit? Let me tell you, when you are at the point where you have a bunch of money in the bank, or your house is paid off, like I look at my dad. I don't know what his situation is with his house, but he's got Social Security and a pension. He's got guaranteed income for the rest of his life, and it's certainly enough to live on. I'd call that financial freedom. It works like this. It can be a massive stress reliever. If you have the discipline to save money and you've got a good chunk saved up, and again, you're not living beyond your means, that means that any job that you have that might cause you stress, you can quit. And that's okay, because you got some time, you got some money saved up where you can kill some time in between jobs waiting and finding the right one. So that's tremendous freedom, where you're not bowing to somebody else going, I'll do whatever you say because I'm so afraid to lose my job. It's kind of like being a slave, in a way. They're holding your freedom over your head, your ability to pay your bills and eat, So in that way, yeah, I guess I am a little more free than others, just because of this, again, because of the discipline I put in my life. You know what I mean? Going back to like physical freedom at the beginning, there's definitely a piece to that where, keeping your body strong and healthy, that's going to cause you to be more free, like actually physically free. Like I can walk around, run around, lift things. I'm more free to do things than other people who aren't taking care of themselves, right? And that can be a key. Also with the libertarian thing, speaking of financial freedom, in the libertarian perspective, the government again, why they want them to be so far away and so small is they make these bold statements that taxes are legalized theft. So the government can do shit to you that you can't do to other people. Like the government can walk up to you, nope, you're going to pay us. However much you make, you're going to pay us part of that. Oh, you want to live on some property here in our country? Well, you're going to have to pay us government rent in the form of property taxes. You want to buy a thing? You're going to have to pay us taxes when you buy that thing. Like that is organized, legalized theft. They are stealing your money. So if you have a way to get out of that, like to, like shit, man, I'm self-employed. I don't tell the government about every penny I make. I mean, I do actually. I report everything I make, but I write off a lot of shit. Because you know what? Fuck it, dude. I work hard for my money. If I recommend you do the same thing, even if you have a W-2 job, go start yourself a side business so that you have get yourself like an EIN, a tax identification number for your business. And then that's going to let you write a bunch of shit off. You'll get back a lot of what you paid. I mean, why wouldn't you? I mean, it's not like it's illegal. It's completely legal. That's what those tax laws are there for. Take advantage. Get your money back from those fuckers. Another thing that libertarians talk about is that a draft is legalized slavery. A draft, I mean like conscription, like a military draft, where the government's going to say, no, like Vietnam, right? We're going to have a lottery, and if we pull your number, you got to go over there and fight for us. That's legalized slavery. They're making you do shit you don't want to do, and they're going to fucking come down with the full force of the federal government on you if you don't. You're going to go to jail if you draft dodge. It just doesn't make any sense. The government can do shit to you that you can't do to other people. So this, like I said, this libertarian stuff is actually very interesting. We talked about the drug laws. So that's financial freedom. Are you free to quit your job at any time? Is it worth it to you? Again, it's a trade-off like we talked about in the last podcast. Cutting out some things, the fancy cable package or the big internet package on your phone or whatever it is, so you can clear up an extra $100 a month or $200 a month where you can just be saving that, and then you come up with this slush fund of cash so that, you can tell your boss to take this job and shove it if you have to. Is it worth it to you? Is it worth it to you to have that discipline now and let go of a few, kind of dessert type items, so that you have the money to then have the freedom to be able to walk if you need to? That's financial freedom, right? Something to consider. So like I said, there's tons of kinds of freedom, that are kind of structured into our society and structured into lots of societies. And I'm really interested in that. But even if you are in jail, there are freedoms that you have. And I don't mean that they let you out for an hour to be out in the yard and working out. I mean, there are freedoms within you that cannot be taken. You can only take them from yourself. Okay, so let's look first at mental freedom. Okay, what do I mean by mental freedom? I mean, do you have some kind of built-in laws or rules that you have imposed on yourself that maybe don't make a lot of sense? Like, maybe they don't need to be there. Like, say you don't think that you should be able to drink before 5 o'clock. You've imposed that discipline on yourself. Or hey, only on Saturday, or whatever it is. Do you need that? I mean, you are structuring yourself, you're disciplining yourself, and that's good, but you're taking away a little bit of freedom. If one of your buddies is in town and he calls you on a Thursday, hey man, I want to have a beer. What are you going to tell him? I only drink on the weekends. There's a freedom there, and it's self-imposed. You're putting those rules in your own head. Okay? Say you're a masturbator, and you're a once a day guy or 3 times a week guy or whatever. And you're like, oh, I can't do it anymore. I can't do it any more than that. I can't do it. Why not? You are imposing that on yourself. You have decided for some reason And I think that concept is good. The idea that, I no longer I'm living with my parents or whatever, so I have to kind of structure my own life and organize things. But I think a lot of times these things that you put on yourself, they're just kind of random, and they are without, any negatives like that are going to come from them. Maybe the way that you handle yourself in a social situation, you don't even realize it, but you're completely strapped into some. Like, think about this. Why do guys like texting so much? Because there is less formality. When you call someone, hello, hey man, how you doing? Hey, good, how about you? Blah, blah, blah. You go through this whole like rigmarole of formalized greeting at the beginning, and they do the same shit at the end. So there's all these like almost rituals that you have to go through in order to have a phone call. And texting deletes that. Like, you just get right to the middle of that phone conversation and get the information across, and wham. I suppose that's just being, having some kind of, etiquette and trying to be nice to people and that kind of thing. And it's, maybe taking this freedom thing just a little too far, but I want you thinking about what kind of rules have you imposed on yourself, and can you delete them and be okay? You know what I mean? So that's the mental freedom piece. The biggest thing, as I was digging through this stuff, is emotional freedom. Okay, they're two different things. So mental versus emotional, we've talked about this. It's your heart and your mind. Mental is the adult in your head who does things like sets up rules and sets up, yeses and nos for you and kind of helps keep you on the right track. The emotional part of you, that's the little kid that's inside you. That's the why not? I want the fancy car. I want this one. It's your wants and your desires and your fun, essentially. That's your emotional side. So what is emotional freedom? Well, am I emotionally free in some ways? Absolutely. I don't have a partner. I don't have kids. I have a mom and a dad and brother, sister, in-laws, nieces and nephews, all that stuff. But as far as people who have direct impact on me, direct influence on me emotionally, I don't have that. So does that mean I'm free? Maybe that's your definition. Basically, no one can hurt me emotionally. Is that good? I mean, maybe that sounds good to you. And it's nice. It's predictable. I'll tell you that. I know that, I'm not going to, an argument's not going to pop up and I'm going to have to deal with it tonight. You know what I mean? I remember shit, man. I spent 15 years of my life living with women, and it's, any kind of partner. They're different than you are. So you're going to invariably rub. It's going to be tough sometimes. So there's that, so I'm free from harm emotionally, and that for the most part. I would tell you this, though, that there is a higher level of freedom involved with this emotional shit, and I think it does have to do with being with someone. Okay, now this gets kind of convoluted. I was working this out with my buddy Eric last night. We were kind of talking about it, and I think I got him to I'm going to try to get you to the end zone the way I kind of did with him. So when you are with someone, when you have a real partner, and let's assume that you're in love, you respect each other, you have like a reasonably functional relationship, okay? Things are going well. You're not looking at worrying about it ending soon. So we have a functional relationship that has no ceiling on it. So let's start there. There's your assumption. When you have that other person, eventually they better become a mirror of sorts for you, where you see your own shit. And I kind of talked about this with how my buddies give me shit about stuff I say on here. They become this mirror, so that when you do things or say things or your actions or whatever, you're going to see that reflected back to you from them in various ways. Now, maybe they're going to repeat back something you said. Maybe you will see them start to do things that you do in a little bit of a way. Like, I don't know, you always put your shoes over there. And then she starts putting her shoes over there too. I don't know, just little things like that, all the way up to very big things like, sharing your deepest, darkest fears, your worst insecurities. There is a tremendous amount of fear involved with that, where hey, this is a thing that I worry about and it scares me. Of course, like I said, we're starting from the point of a trusting, positive, good relationship. So let's take out the idea that they might fuck with you about it. So let's assume that they're going to, again, just kind of repeat it back to you and show you from their perspective what that insecurity looks like. And it might be a situation where, hey, you haven't been, when you go out and spend time with your friends and go out and party or whatever, I don't like it when I don't hear from you all night. I need a good night call or a few texts, or show me some pictures that I want to share your good time. It's not like a lack of trust thing. It's an inside of me insecurity thing. Like, I don't think you're going to do anything, but I can't help feeling this way. Here's a way that you can help me feel better. That is a level of freedom that's super high, okay? Because you can take your worst, darkest, most vulnerable situation and then look at it in the mirror, okay? And that is very freeing. Once you get that out of you, you probably aren't going to do that all the time. If you're any kind of a functional adult, you're not going to be sharing the same insecurity constantly. Because generally, if you share that with somebody, they'll address it for you. A good partner would, and that'll help. Also, here's the big thing. The fact that you shared it, the fact that you talked about it, the fact that you looked at it in the mirror that is your partner, that's going to take away a lot of it. It's going to take a lot of the edge off of whatever that thing was. A lot of the times, you just got to get over the fear of talking about it. You got to bring it out and talk to that person about it. So the real freedom there, like I said, relieving all that shit, getting it out of yourself and allowing your partner to help you fix it. That's like taking shit out of your backpack, okay? Like, you have a backpack of external stressors. And again, I was telling my buddy Eric this last night, that there is no fucking thing. There is no boss or job or place or machine. Think about any of the things that might cause you stress. There is no stress beacon, this item that is stuck on this machine and it just pulses out stress. Okay? That doesn't exist. All right? So you assign that fucking stress. You decide that you're going to worry about X, your job or your house or your relationship. You choose to create stress in yourself as a result of this thing that you see in front of you. Now, are there things that are going to trigger you more and make you feel more stressed out? Yeah, those are things you probably should avoid, but ultimately that decision is right here. You decide that shit. I'm going to assign stress to this thing. And if you can delete that, if you can take that out, that stress, you know what I mean? If you can recognize, oh, fuck, man, I'm just... Like, I got a buddy who doesn't like driving on the highway. And whatever, don't drive on the highway. And he lives a place where they don't have highways, and that's great for him. But, where I come out on the beat fear thing, but I really believe in the exposure therapy. Like, if there's a thing that's stressful to me, and I'm like having trouble with it, I'm going to go do it. I'm going to go be around it. I'm going to go experience that stress till I can prove to myself that it isn't going to weaken me anymore, that it's not going to be a problem. Like with the fucking airplane. I flew the next day. It wasn't easy, but I wasn't going to walk around knowing that fucking shit beat me. Anyway, I'm kind of getting off track of the freedom piece. Actually, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. Because if you have these stressful things and they are causing you to bounce your life around to avoid them, that's not freedom. That's not freedom at all. And that's self-fucking imposed. And it's emotional. Like, I'm choosing to be upset about this thing, and so I'm going to avoid the shit out of it. Used to date this girl, I don't live I don't live in New York City. I don't live in Chicago where there's 14 billion fucking restaurants and bars. There's a few places you can go, but the options aren't limitless. Ultimately you're going to have gone to all of them within a short period of time, go out to eat, whatever. And anytime that we would get out to some place and we'd have an argument about something or a disagreement about something, she would never want to go back. I'm like, we're going to start running out of restaurants. I mean, not that we fought all the time, but anytime there was anything. And she didn't like how I drove. And how are you going to get to a restaurant? You're not riding your bicycle probably. So we would drive there and she'd already be on edge. And I'd be on edge because I'm worried about her getting upset about my driving. And so that caused some problems. But man, that idea that we're going to avoid shit because we had an argument, we need to go back there and have a great time. I mean, that's the answer. You know what I mean? And you need to look at that shit too. I mean, like I said, there are some situations that they pull more. You're going to assign a whole fuck ton of stress to them, and that's not good. And maybe you don't quite have the self-discipline to delete all that. And I'll tell you, you're a superhero if you do, because that's not easy to do. But I recommend that you take some of those on, okay? And that's going to give you that emotional freedom. And again, back to, I know I kind of jumped off of the relationship thing, but I hope I got that across, that real freedom, especially emotional freedom, I think being in a relationship, being in a partnership, that's the only way you're going to get that, like true emotional freedom, where you have that mirror, where you can look at these things and look at the things that bother you and stress you out and see what they look like and analyze them together. And again, you can't do that with somebody who's where you have any thoughts that they're going to attack you. If you don't trust them, you can't do that shit. It's going to go bad. Because then you'll never do it again. And that's a problem after problem. But that's where I come out on the emotional freedom piece. I really think that you're more free if you're in a good relationship because you can eliminate all those things. So anyway, freedom, motherfuckers. That's what this podcast was about. Like I said, people tell me all the time how free I am. So I dug into it. I looked into all these different areas, different places, ways that you can be free. And I'm nailing some of them. I'm nailing a lot of them. But there's some that I'm not. And there are some ways that you're free that you don't even know. You know what I mean? I think that you are choosing. A lot of people who talk about how stressed out they are about their lives or their jobs or whatever. Again, you're assigning that stress, first of all. And second, you are choosing to keep that shit in your backpack. You could take it out if you want to. If you've been disciplined, and that's where the fucking, the Jocko Willink book, Discipline Equals Freedom. What he really means by that is if you discipline yourself to work out every day, your body's going to work well and you'll have that physical freedom. If you discipline yourself not to break any laws, you're not going to go to jail. If you discipline yourself to save your money, then you'll have financial freedom. If you discipline yourself to make sure he never talks about this. He's not a relationship type of guy. Like, that's not his kind of wheelhouse, but I'm sure he would tell you that disciplining yourself to do the right things in your relationship is going to create a good relationship, and now you're free of a lot of those stresses and hassles. That's what it is, man. Discipline is freedom. It truly is. But sometimes, like I said, maybe it isn't. But anyway, that's freedom. I'm super excited to talk about this. Like I said, I was working it out with my buddy Eric last night, and we figured out a lot of the ins and outs of this and how it was going to go. But that's it. Travis Neville Podcast. I'm Travis Neville. I wrote this book called The Jossman Method, Conquering Life's Transitions. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it on Audible. You can get it from the publisher, which is Atlantic Publishing out of Ocala, Florida. It's at a bunch of bookstores here in Michigan. But this is the Travis Neville Podcast, and I hope I've helped you at least a little bit today to get your shit together.